Hello YouTube. Today on the Naughty Librarian, I am bringing you my bookshelf tour part 4. This is my very tip-top shelf, and this is where I keep the vast majority of my historical romances, because I wanted them to have their own little section. And this is the one area of romance that I'm really trying to get more into, because it's such a big part of the genre, and it's never really been my thing. However, it's very, very easy to get historical romances for very, very cheap at library book sales. So I've gotten a lot of these for like 10 cents. But anyway, let's just get into this. Over here, I have my Beverly Jenkins section. Love Beverly Jenkins. She's an incredible author. Her books, the covers, let's talk about that for a second. The covers are always very, very, very smutty. But the books are usually not that smutty. They're more historical fiction with a dash of romance. So I will say that going in. Don't expect them to be like super duper smutty. And then I actually run out of room, so these are double stacked. I'm trying my best not to double stack, but I don't always succeed. So I have some more stuff behind it. All kinds of different stuff. I have some newer releases right here by Sophie Jordan. These ones, Amanda Scott ones, they are legit ridiculous. Like, the blurbs on them are some of the worst blurbs I've ever read, which makes me want to read them because they might be so bad that they're good. Also, I have this book right here, The Duchess War by Courtney Milan. Everyone recommends this to me, and I still haven't read it. I'm a monster. I need to read it. Everyone says it's wonderful and great, and I need to do it. So it's on my shelf. Eventually, it will happen. Right here, I have some Julia Quinn. Julia Quinn has done me wrong in one instance, so I'm like nervous to read more things by Julia Quinn, because her blurbs look dope, but the books are usually not my thing. So I have a few on my shelf to still try out. Then I gotta show you these ones. So I actually found a couple of these, like super old school. Oh my gosh, Virginia Vixen. Like the tacky covers. There is like a special place in my heart for tacky romance novel covers. I love like how unabashedly they are like just a romance novel. Love it. Moving on over, I have some Eloisa James, which I have been recommended many times. I know she's like a big name in the genre. I have a couple of her books. I have some Sabrina Jeffries, which have also been recommended. Someone has told me Sabrina Jeffries is similar to Tessa Dare. I don't know if that's true yet. I'm hoping, but eventually I will read some of that. This front stack, because I am double booking my shelves, sadly, this has Kinley McGregor. Lauren from the Novel Lush sent me all these books because she's amazing. Kinley McGregor is actually the pen name of Sherilyn Kenyon when she is writing historical romance, so that's really cool. Love Sherilyn Kenyon. Right here I have a couple books by Sarah McLean. So the very, very first historical romance I ever read was Wicked and the Wallflower. This was the first one I ever read. And it was very good. I enjoyed it quite a bit. And then I read a different book by Sarah McLean, and I hated it. So I'm right now I'm hit and miss with it. So I'm hoping it's going to continue on with more hits than misses. Behind the double booking, I have a lot of Lisa Kleypas, because Lisa Kleypas is like queen of the genre. She's written so many books, so I had to have a bunch. I've gotten all of these at library book sales. Then I have some Stephanie Lawrence, just because she writes about a lot of pirates, and like, I'm into pirates sometimes. So I have my Kleypas, I got my Lawrence, they're kind of all together in that section. I gotta read Lisa Kleypas. I know, I'm a monster, I haven't read Lisa Kleypas, but I have a bunch of the books, so one step in the right direction. This next shelf is also romance. This is kind of more contemporary stuff. Also, I have my little sign, the Naughty Librarian, but we'll move that for the sake of looking at books. These are a lot of my favorite like contemporary romances. So over here, I have the Royally Screwed series by Emma Chase. I mean, it's a very smutty cover, but it's like a royal romance. Sometimes I'm just in the mood for that. Then I have, Hating Game, 99% Mindset, my Sally Thorne section. I have my Helen Hong section. Love Helen Hong. Oh my gosh. Kiss Quotient, one of my all-time favorite books. So good. So very good. Right here, I have a whole bunch of stuff by J.C. Burton. J.C. Burton wrote these like really, really cool sport romances, and they are very smutty. So if you just want something that's smutty and like low stakes, they're perfect. And also they have like, hot athletes, so. Then I have all of my Christina Lauren section. I have literally read everything Christina Lauren has ever written. I'm kind of a stan at this point. Everything started with Sweet Filthy Boy. That was the first one I ever read by them. Loved it. I was like, what else have they written? Oh, they've written like 2 series so far? Done. So I literally read all of them, and every book they put out since, also auto-buy. But particularly the Beautiful Bastard series, Oh boy, like if you're looking for a smutty book, like they do it in chapter 1. Chapter 1 smut. It's pretty intense. So a lot of smutty stuff. Their newer works that are coming out nowadays aren't as smutty. But if you want to go back to their early works, smut all the time. So it's kind of whatever your taste is. Up top I have a few more things. Karina Halley is a romance novel author that I don't see a lot of people talking about. But legit, one of my favorite romance novel authors. She is so funny. Her books are so smutty and delightful. I love them. This is one of my favorite books, which I'm only going to say, well, I mean, it's titled Smut. So, smut. It's a romantic comedy about these two people trying to write a smutty book together. Very fun. And it's weird because this is one of my favorite books of hers, but actually I hated the first half of it. I was just like slogging through it, and then something changed and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this book. So it totally turned itself around. It's one of my favorites, surprisingly. And then I got some new favorites right here. These two are definitely on my top books of 2019 list. So I have Fix Her Up by Tessa Bailey, Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. Loved both of those books. They had to be on this shelf because I just want them near me when I'm filming. I love those books so much. This next shelf is kind of the piece de resistance shelf because this is like head level in all of my videos. So you guys have seen these books already, but let's go over them for the sake of going over them. Right here I have my Leigh Bardugo section. Love Leigh Bardugo. Oh, I have some merch too. I have this little Nikolai pop that I bought, and then I realized I probably could have made that, but I bought it. So I have my Nikolai pop. I have a mug from Nina. It says, "One could plot violent espionage and still hope for dessert." So I have some merch. And the Grisha trilogy. I liked it. It wasn't my favorite. And then I moved on to Six of Crows and like obsessed. I'm literally obsessed with that series. I loved it so much. Six of Crows, Crooked Kingdom is my jam. Love it. And then you have King of Scars, which I'm like, about. I love Nikolai, but it's more Grisha. And I'm much more, you know, the dregs than the Grisha. Moving on over here, I have J. Kristoff, Nevernight, and God's Grave. I have an opening here because at the time I'm filming this, it's not out yet, but Dark Dawn, the finishing touch of this series, the end of the trilogy is coming out, and I've already made a spot for it. I've ordered several copies because I'm a nerd, and they're different editions, so I need them. I need them. In case you haven't noticed, Nevernight, that whole series, totally one of my all-time favorite series. Is so good. Definitely adult. It is not YA. It's an adult book. But very, very, very good. I love it so much. Moving on, I have more J. Kristoff, but this time he's with Amy Kaufman, and this is the Illuminae series. Some of my favorite books. Like literally, I read Illuminae, I think, 2016 or 2017. I forget which year, but it was a while ago, and I read it. It blew my effing mind. It's very visual and is told as a dossier style book, but the audiobooks, so good. Full cast, sound effects. It's like a book that became a movie somehow. I don't know. It's so good. I recommend like reading along with the audiobook. Excellent. This is my like cool thing I found. It's actually an arc of Red Rising. Oh my gosh, I got an arc of it. This is like my one thing I found, and I found it at a library book sale. I got it for 25 cents. I'm like, they didn't know what they had. And I grabbed it, and I'm like, it's mine. So this is House Minerva. I am always looking for more of them, but they're very rare now because everyone's snatching them up. But I did end up getting an arc of it. I'm so happy. Right here, I have my Sabata Here section. So, Ember in the Ashes. Ugh. It blew me away. I love this series so much. One of my favorite characters of all time, I think, of any series is Helen Aquila. I actually have a Helen Aquila poster on my wall that I haven't shown you guys, but Helen Aquila, she is my favorite character. She is so good. This series is legit some of the best stuff I've ever read. It's very good. She's taking freaking forever to put out book 4, though, so I'm bummed about it, but it's gonna happen eventually. I love this series so much. Oh my gosh. Moving on over here, I have Susan Dennard and the Truth Witch or Witchlands series. So I have Truth Witch, Wind Witch, Blood Witch, Sight Witch, whole thing. And I've made so many friends on BookTube because of Truth Witch. We all decided we're going to read it together, and we were all internet friends. And we're like, oh, let's all read this together. And then it turned into like an actual friendship where we all still talk to each other all the time. And like we visited each other, and we like live across the country. So it's like crazy. Truth Witch kind of changed my BookTube life. Again, this is another one, did you see in all of my videos, is kind of prime real estate. I guess this would be like just chest level, but this is prime real estate. These are books that I absolutely love. So across the bottom here, I have a lot of Sherilyn Kenyon. Sherilyn Kenyon wrote the Dark Hunter series, and it's some of the best paranormal romance you're ever gonna read. It's kind of the Greek gods, it has demons, it's got weird creatures, it's got vampires, it's got like all kinds of stuff going on. So good, very smutty, excellent stuff, love it to bits. This is kind of an underrated paranormal romance series. It's very long. It's like, I think 9 or 10 books long at this point. And this is the Demonica series by Larissa Ione. And it's kind of like, oh, you like Grey's Anatomy? Oh, have it be a demon hospital. Yes. So it's a smutty demon hospital. Like, what part of that sounds bad? None of it, because that sounds amazing. So, smutty demon hospital. So good. Batman. Oh, he's bringing me a toy. Oh, Daddy. I know, sweetheart, but I'm filming. All right. Play break. Up top here are more books that are absolutely my favorites. What do I have here? Let's see. So I have some Alona Andrews. This was like the first foray I went into for Alona Andrews. So Burn for Me. Oh my gosh. I recommend this so often, especially to people who say like, oh, I don't like romance. I'm like, read Burn for Me, because it'll trick you into liking romance. It's so good. I love it to bits. It's a great urban fantasy series. It's some of the best stuff I've ever read, surprisingly. Like, it hooks you immediately. So good. And then my queen, Tessa Dare, moving on over here. Absolutely the second historical romance book I ever read was The Duchess Deal. And this is like one of my all-time favorite books. It was crazy. I was just like, oh my gosh, historical romance, what have I been doing wrong my whole life? I've read 2 good books in a row. And then it went downhill from there. So, not all historical is my favorite, but pretty much anything by Tessa Dare, I've loved. I read this and I was obsessed. And I was like, what else has she written? Oh, she's written a whole lot. I'm going to go read all of it. And I just binge read her books all month. And I read like 7 of them in like over the course of 2 weeks. It was bananas. I couldn't stop reading her books. So, sorry, I got a little intense for a minute there. But that's how Tessa Dare makes me feel. Over here is Alyssa Cole. She writes the Reluctance Royal series. It's kind of perfect if you're the kind of person who saw Black Panther and you absolutely loved it, but you're like, you know what would make it better? If it was a rom-com. So if you're into that whole sentence sounds amazing, you're really gonna like Alyssa Cole. So this next shelf, you probably just see like the tippy top part of it in my videos, because that's about where it cuts off usually. So let's go into this a bit more in depth. Over here I have Kara Thomas. Okay, so Kara Thomas. Let's pull that one out. Darkest Corners. It's legit amazing. She writes the best murder mysteries. And technically they are YA, but they feel very adult. I feel like they're good crossover novels. And legitimately, like, they're killers. I never guess the killers. And that's so rare for me because I'm very good at guessing killers. And then these ones, I get to the end and I'm just like, it messes up my brain and my soul because I don't guess the killer, but they're so good. So I highly recommend her books. Next up, The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue. This is one of my all-time favorite books. Oh my gosh, Monty is one of my favorite characters. He's basically like, if you really like Oscar Wilde, but also wanted to see him as an angsty teen. So that sounds like something you want to see. I definitely recommend. So good. Then I got my Becky Albertalli section. So I have, Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda, the whole series. Surprisingly though, unpopular opinion, Upside of Unrequited is actually my favorite book of the series. And this is no one's favorite book of the series. I realized this. No one likes this book the best. And I met Becky Albertalli and I brought that up and she's just like, it's really special to me too. So I feel like this is her little her redheaded stepchild of a book. But we both have such a heart for it. I love it so much. Then I have my Buffy crew because I am a hardcore Buffy fan. This is my childhood. I love Buffy so much. But y'all gotta move for a second because I'm talking about books. Moving on over here, I have my B.T. Gottfried section. B.T. Gottfried is actually kind of a friend of mine, but he writes awesome books. They're very sex positive, they are queer positive, they're just awesome little delightful rom-coms. So I do recommend picking them up. They definitely have crossover appeal for an adult audience as well. It also has something to add to our enjoyment of it, but it's definitely really, really good. Nerdy and the Dirty is kind of, I think, my favorite. I'm gonna say it's my favorite. It's definitely really, really fun. I enjoyed it. So I do recommend checking out his stuff. It's really adorable and fun. A completely underrated series is the Kingdom on Fire series. This is by Jessica Clue, so this is the first book, A Shadow Bright and Burning. Has an amazing cover to start off with, but it is so good. I am obsessed with this series, and I try to make everyone I know read it. But basically, it's Victorian London, except it's also overrun with interdimensional monsters, and the people protecting London are wizards. So it sounds amazing, and it's so underrated. It's so good. I've met Jessica Clue enough that when we see each other now in public, we like know each other, that we go talk. So I'm like, she's kind of a friend. I'm just gonna say she's a friend because we have talked a lot outside of things, outside of book events. So I'm gonna say she's a friend. But so underrated. Such a good series. Please read it. Then I have my Marie Lu section. I love Marie Lu. I've read so many of her books. The first one I ever read was Legend. So good. Oh my gosh. It really hit me. And then like the whole series is kind of post-apocalyptic or dystopian. So good. They actually are continuing the series this year. They're putting out a new trilogy after the end of this one. But seriously though, Champion, the end of Champion, you guys, like, ugly crying. I remember listening to it on audiobook and I was driving and I had to pull over because I was just sobbing. So very, very good. And right here I have my little Holly Black section. I love Cruel Prince so much. This series is so excellent. Love it to bits. And then I have Coldest Girl in Cold Town, which I read, which, you know, it's like its weird own little thing. It's vampires. It's very different than normal stuff she writes, but I kind of like it. Then I have this little like piece of merch. It's just like it's like a little box that just looks like a book, so I like to keep it with my books. And up top I just have a few more things. I have a couple books by Karen McManus. You know what? I really like Karen McManus books too. She also makes it very difficult to peg the killer, a lot like Kara Thomas. So I recommend if you're in the mood for like a good murder mystery, like One of Us is Lying is basically like, hey, it's The Breakfast Club except with also murder. So very fun. And of course I have The Hate You Give and On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. I know everyone loves The Hate You Give, but you know what? I kind of like On the Come Up better. I'm like, again, that's an unpopular opinion. No one likes that one better, but I kind of do. I kind of like it better. I find it to be like, I just find the characters to be a bit more interesting and dynamic and complex. Okay, we're getting close to the bottom. This is the second to bottom shelf. I got a lot of different things going on here. Right here, I kind of have the rest of my, what is this called? The Red Queen series. I have all the books. I've met Victoria Aveyard several times, so they're all signed. And I have like a hit or miss thing with this series. Like I loved Red Queen, Glass Sword, cool name, terrible book, hated it. And then I went to King's Cage, and King's Cage is legit one of the best books I've ever read. Brilliant. Oh my gosh, I was like, yeah, hitting it out of the park. Glass Sword was like the glitch. And then Warstorm came out, and I was like, oh. So books 1 and 3 are very good. 2 and 4, not so good. So, do I recommend the series? Yeah, I think it's a good series to read, but just be aware there are ups and downs. But like, King's Cage, legitimately, so freaking good. It's one of my favorite books. And continuing on with this, okay, The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey. They did make kind of a crummy movie out of this. The movie was so bad. So bad. But the book, so good. It bummed me out because I feel like people aren't going to pick up the book now because the movie was so bad. But legitimately, when I read this, at least a few years ago when I read it, The Fifth Wave was one of the best things I've ever read. I absolutely love this series. It's very bleak and kind of dark and dire and moody. And really, really good, though. I do recommend picking it up. I think it's worth a read. Especially, I think it has a lot of, like, adult crossover appeal. But yeah, just pretend the movie didn't happen. Another one with a very bad movie adaptation, Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. This is another book I read. It was, like, one of the first books I really got into. I have a Kindle edition. I have this edition. I rented it from the library at one point. Like, I just kept getting different editions. But I did really like it. And I think the original trilogy is, like, nice. I really appreciated the original trilogy. I loved it. It had a great story arc. And then they're continuing on with the series, and I don't think it needs to happen. It's not adding anything to the story, but that's just my own opinion. But the original trilogy, so good. The movie, though, very different from the book and not so good. I have Scythe and Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman. I read Scythe, absolutely loved it, and I was like, oh man, I can't wait for Thunderhead, and it's been like over a year and I still haven't read Thunderhead. I don't know why, I just have this block about it. I can't make myself read it for some reason, but I know it's really good. Because I loved Scythe. I thought it was so good. I would not shut up about it after I read it. So it's weird that I haven't read the sequel yet. But you know what? The third book's coming out soon too. So maybe I'll just like marathon them. This is my special little place here, Maureen Gu. I love Maureen Gu books. She writes such funny, like hysterical rom-coms. Oh my gosh. They are YA. And they do have a lot of YA appeal. They're definitely for a YA audience. But the humor is so clever. And is legitimately just really funny that I feel like adults would appreciate it too. It's a nice crossover book. And they're so fucking funny. I can't recommend her books enough. They're just delightful. And this is probably my favorite one, I Believe in a Thing Called Love. It's about this girl named Desi who is trying to figure out love and relationships, but the only source material she has is K-dramas. So she writes a comprehensive guide to romance based off of K-dramas and then gets into crazy situations because K-dramas are crazy. So it's very funny, lots of shenanigans, lots of swoons. It's a great series. And then in the corner here we have my Maggie Stiefvater section. So I have the whole Wolves of Mercy Falls series, which is weird because I really love the secondary characters in it, more so than I like the main protagonists. Last book of the series, Sinner, is actually just about those side characters. They got their own book, and I was like, oh, yes! Isabel and Cole, the side characters, I was completely obsessed with the whole series. They got their own book. So I feel like everyone was obsessed with those characters too. But it's like a fun series. I think it's definitely YA, but very fun. And of course, The Raven Boys, probably her most iconic series. I've read The Raven Boys, but I have not continued on with the series yet. I keep meaning to and not doing it. I'm thinking probably October, because ravens and spooky Halloween stuff. I'm thinking it goes together. And yeah, so that's just Maggie's Stiefvater section. All right, here we are. We're at the bottom finally. The very, very bottom shelf. So this is kind of also just spillover of stuff I don't have space for up top. So I have a whole boatload again of Sherilyn Kenyon books. So many Sherilyn Kenyon books. These are all my big giant ones. So these are the hardcover new releases, you know what I mean? And then the top shelf is all my paperbacks. So I've basically gotten almost all of these at library book sales. So I have not paid tons and tons of money for them. Usually I get them for $1. So I've lucked out in a lot of ways. So I have a whole boatload of Sherilyn Kenyon books down here. Here's some more softcover ones, but from different series. I really like Sherilyn Kenyon. Over here I have my Christine Feehan section. One more Lindsay Sands book. Immortal Unchained. Ooh, Vampires with Chains. So, Christine Feehan, this whole section, I keep collecting her books. I know she's an author I should read because she's very established in the genre. She's been around for a while. She's been doing this a long time. She has a lot of different series. I know I should read it. I actually think Dark Prince is her very first book, if I'm not mistaken. If I am, let me know in the comments down below. But I think Dark Prince is actually her very first book. This is the Author's Cut Special Edition hardcover, so I think it's an anniversary edition. And I just like the whole idea of Dark Prince. It's like a trope I'm trash for, fake dating and dark princes. If you were fake dating a dark prince, I would lose it. So I have that book, and I just think it's a really great, pretty cover, and it's got demony stuff. Love it. Yeah, this shelf wasn't so exciting because it's all just Sherilyn Kenyon and Christine Feehan. It's just, it's all spillover, all two authors pretty much. Okay, that is the end of my bookshelf tour. It was in 4 parts because I got a lot of shelves. I might do another tour someday because I do move books around a lot. I get new books, I get rid of books. So my bookshelves are already different from when I started this series because I'm a monster and I just move things all the time. But let me know in a comment down below, did you find a new book on my shelf that you hadn't heard of before and now you're like, ooh, thanks for recommending that to me, Amanda. Leave that in the comment down below. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like. And if you want to see more videos, make sure you subscribe. And I'll see you guys soon.